Okay, take two. So I'm Erin Tweed. I'm an ambassador diamond. I've been in the business for 5 years. I was a nurse working full time in administration. So I had one child at the time. He's 5.5 now. But I started this business because I was tired of um, like my husband taking him to work and I just would pick him up. And so I had little bits of time with him. We were paying over $1,000 a month in just childcare alone. It was crazy. And I was actually planning to go back and get my master's because I thought that's the only way as a nurse that you can make extra money, is to go back to school and just I have to get my degree. So was planning to do that and came across a post about hair, skin, and nails because I had just done the mom chop and thought, hey, I think I need this because I regret cutting off my hair and wanted something. Saw the post and it took me about 3 months. And finally one day she said, have you thought about making money using the products? And I was like, no, but if you tell me what to do, like I'll figure it out, just because we were desperate at that time, wanting to be able to do more stuff as a family, but then, paying 500 more a month than we had initially budgeted for childcare was a lot of money. So long story short, we quickly promoted. It's actually, I think tomorrow is going to be, I was able to quit my job 4 years ago. Tomorrow will be that anniversary. It should pop up on my time hop. So I knew it was either today or tomorrow, but it wasn't on there today. So it's got to be tomorrow. But it has just been the ultimate freedom. So we've had a lot of life happen, and I know I'll probably touch on some of that too, as we go through. So the month, and I just kind of like to give this backstory. So the month that I was going presidential, I promoted one day shy of my year anniversary. But at the start of that month, I actually went through a miscarriage, and that kind of started in our whole journey of unexplained infertility. We ended up having going through IVF. We did IUIs, all kinds of in vitro. We paid cash for that because of this business. So then we had our daughter, and she'll be 2 at the end of December. So did that, last summer we were building our dream home. We moved in with my in-laws because our house wasn't ready yet. And then I found out I was pregnant. And so we got pregnant on our own. So we had a miracle baby. And then he was born with cleft lip and cleft palate. And so if you followed our journey, he just had his first of hopefully not too many, but we really don't know how many surgeries he's going to have. But so he just had his lip repaired at the beginning of July. And so because of this business, we were able to pay cash for that surgery, just everything up front. Because when you have a health share plan and you do those kind of things, a lot of times they require that cash payment up front. And so we didn't even have to bat an eye. So that's kind of the shortened version. There's so much that has happened in 5 years. And so I know like some of those questions and stuff that we talked about are probably going to intertwine with even more details. But I always like to share that because probably some of you guys are going through life, or, life hasn't maybe hit you yet. And so just know that it doesn't matter what stage of your business you're in, you're going to hit some kind of roadblock. And so there's different ways to kind of go through it and go about it. So what did you want to jump into, Stormy?
Sorry, I'm taking notes. Do you want to start with the questions and then jump into like what we talked about, or do you want to go through kind of what we talked about first?
Yeah, I'm going to pull them up. Or do you have the questions handy?
Okay. I was going to say, I have them right here written down if you just want me to fire them at you.
Yep, that's perfect.
Okay. So a big question was, and I don't know, these aren't probably not in a really great order, but was like, what does your day look like now? And then what did it look like when you were working full time? Like your non-negotiables, what your week looks like, kind of like that.
Just how to be a mom and working this business and not want to pull your hair out. I get it.
Yes.
So when I started, I'll kind of go back to when I was working full time. So for me, I was in administration. So I didn't work the 312s. I was there, 50 to 60 hours a week, just depending on how many surgeries we worked with. And I also worked with joint replacement patients. So our cases started at 6:15 a.m. So for me, I had to be at work at 6 a.m. because my job was kind of the liaison. So I had to make sure I saw the patients before they rolled into the OR. So I was up at 4:30 when I was getting ready for work. I would start to listen to some of the trainings that they did maybe like the night before, because I wasn't staying up until 10, 11, doing that. I still had to go to bed. So I was catching up, while I was getting ready on my drive to work, listening to things, YouTube videos, just whatever I could plug in, because I knew, okay, if I text somebody at this hour, they're going to think I'm crazy. So then I would go into work, and then after I kind of made my first rounds on my patients, I would head back to my office, and I didn't necessarily have a lot of time to sit there and take a break and do all this kind of stuff, because I was bouncing back and forth from my office to the floor to see patients as they went to the there. But on the in between, I was texting. I was texting and sending out messages. But so much of what I did that day is I planned the night before, because I work, and I think. Like I talked about this on our opportunity Zoom last night, or yeah, I guess it's a Zoom. It went live on Facebook, but I talked about it like nursing mindset. We are on so much of a schedule. You know exactly when your patients are going to go to therapy. You know when they're going to get pain medicine. You know when they're going to do X, Y, Z. So my day was already kind of planned out. So I had to work this business around that. And so then and now I still do things very much in a routine. And so I can work diligently in a chunk of time versus like, oh, I'm going to do the X, Y. Like I had to set exactly, all right, if I have 30 minutes to work this business, what am I going to do? So that night before, I was pre-planning some posts, putting stuff in my notes. I would come up with the list of people that I was going to message and follow up with the next day, because if I already knew their names and who I was going to reach out to, I could easily send a message quickly. Because a lot of times it's like, okay, message 25 people, but then you're spending so much time coming up with those 25 people. So I was, okay, if I'm figuring out my list, I would do that. And then pre-planning posts, sometimes hopping on different trainings and stuff like that. I was adding to my network, just all the things that you guys typically do, but I was working with so much intention, and so much of pre-planning. So that way, when I knew, okay, if I'm walking to a patient's room, okay, I can send, from going up one floor, on the elevator, I could send out 5 text messages because I already knew who I was going to message. I already came up with that list. And so had that list in my phone, send out the messages, send out follow-ups. So as I was walking, and on my car ride home, we live in Houston. So there's a lot of traffic. If you've ever been through Houston, there's a lot of traffic. And so when I was driving home from work, I would be scheduling potential calls. I love to get people on the phone. I do message people back and forth, but I love to get people on the phone, because you can have a 10, 15-minute conversation and knock out 3-4 weeks of back and forth. And so really just figuring that out. And so when people hear your voice, just like I don't even think we really had voice messaging then when I started, but it's kind of essentially the same thing. They were excited. They heard my excitement. And so I still love to get people on the phone, just because they can know that I'm a real person. They can hear my voice. They can feel that excitement. So doing that. And then, when I would come home, it was mom time, doing some trainings and stuff like that. And again, then I would have that chunk of time where I would come up with my game plan for the next day. And so now that I'm home full time, I actually get up at 4:30 in the morning. I go to the gym at 5 and I work out from 5 to 6. I come home, I get showered, and I get ready for the day. There's just something about getting ready for the day that just puts me in a good mindset and good perspective. And so, when I'm getting ready for the day, I'm listening to some type of audible. I have my little journal here that I do, and that has my daily devotional and journal in it. So I've got that on my desk. I'm doing those things. Then from about 7 to 8:30, that is mommy time, where I'm getting kids ready for school. My 2 littles go to school. That's the only way I can function as a work from home mom. I have to have time where I get stuff done during the day. And it's the real deal to battle mom guilt, because it's okay, I'm at home, but I'm also a business owner, and I'm also in charge. I don't want to say in charge, leading a team. And so I have to be able to set aside business hours. And so that's what works best for our family. So they go to school from 8:30 to 2:30. So every single morning I'm hosting a power hour. So sorry, this is very detailed, but hosting a power hour for my team either at 9 a.m. or 10 a.m. And so then after I drop the kids off, I come home and I'm doing a little bit of follow-ups. And then after that power hour, I spend a lot of time creating content, because I might, create some stories. I might pre-plan some posts, because not that I'm going to post everything, but I just cannot think if like my kids are climbing on me and shouting mom, and I'm just like, wow. Like, so that's not the ideal time for me to make a post, but that might be the best time for my Instagram or Facebook audience to read a post. So I want to make sure I've created that content, so that way I can just go boom, put it up on there. And I'm not, typing up in those areas when it's not my best creative flow, I guess. Because again, I'm not a perfect writer. I have a lot of thoughts that don't always come out correctly. But I just try and do it when I'm feeling more creative and I have that focused energy time. So I do that. Then I take a little break for lunch. And then sometimes, it might be days where I'm running errands and doing that kind of stuff. And then when the kids get home from about 2:30 to 2:33 until about 7, they go to bed at 7, then that's mommy time. That's time. And I'm such a huge person on routine. So my kids go to bed at 7. Like, we do the same thing over and over, because again, like when I was a nurse, I knew exactly what time my patients were going to have their medicine. Like, I repeat that. And so some days are not perfect, but the more that we just have that consistency, it's just easier for us, and we function better. And so, now I have the time in the evenings where after they go to bed, that might be time where I'm, sending out some more follow-ups. I'm creating some more content. I'm, doing more things for my business. A lot of times it's team Zooms, and sometimes it could be like another power hour. But we just had to figure out what works best. And so, when you hear from me, if you're not, like, I'm a morning person, I get all my energy in the morning. So if you're not and you get your energy at night, that's totally fine. If you want to stay up a little bit later, don't feel like just because I said 4:30 in the morning, I get up. I like getting up at 4:30. Some people do not. I don't like being like, you guys will probably see, like past 9 p.m., my brain is like mush. Like, I feel like just blah, blah, blah comes out. Like, I don't function good at night. But you just figure out what works best for you, and then work in those devoted chunks of time. So I know one of the questions you asked was, what is one of my favorite books? And if you haven't read it, The Power of a Half Hour was amazing, because he talks about how much, so much, and I want to say, I don't remember who it's by, Tommy Barnett, maybe, I could be wrong. But he talks so much about how so much of your life can be done in 30-minute chunks. So he even says, read this book in 30-minute chunks. When you work your business, when you work out, when you play with your kids, 30 minutes of devoted, focused time to whatever task you're doing at hand. And you're going to feel so much more accomplished. You're going to feel refreshed. And it's just like, when you're playing with your kids, after 30 minutes, they're literally done with you. Like, they're just like, okay, they're over it. And they're ready to move on to that next thing. And so you've given them that focused time. So that was a book, that changed things for me, because even if you only have 30 minutes and you have that game plan list of, okay, this is what I'm going to do, you can get a lot done in 30 minutes. So that's what our day looks like. Again, every day is different, but we try and keep it as routine as possible.
Okay. I love that you said that you message, because I know attraction marketing is huge right now. And I feel like you do that. Like, I mean, I follow you, you definitely are doing attraction marketing, but I think what's hard as somebody who's been like, or us who've been in the business, like we've been working on our posts. I mean, I still see posts from 4 years ago that I'm like, oh my Lord. Like, I almost show my team just to be like, see, I had to learn too, but, it's hard to say, oh, go do attraction marketing in like your second day. So I love that you said that you message. How many people, like, what's your goal message a day?
My goal is, I always want to add at least 5 strong potentials to my hunters list. So I don't say how many messages I send out. I just want to have 5 legit conversations where we're going back and forth and talking about the opportunity. Because if you're sending out, let's say you send out 50 messages and nobody's responding, there's something wrong with that. So it might just be your intention behind it. You might be using like a template, and templates are fine, but you also have to tweak it to that person. And so just being more authentic and real, because I use the template message, but I tweak it to that person. And then I take over the conversation in voice messaging. So that way they get to know who I am. There is a lot of hype around, attraction marketing and stuff. And I think it is important to kind of develop yourself. But when you're first getting started, you need to be talking to anybody and everybody. And so, because this is your new platform that you're trying to gain respect and gain people's attention. And so, having done that. And then as that journey progresses, then you start to become a little bit more vulnerable. I can never say that word. And so you start sharing different pieces, and then people start to know you for certain things. But I still like to message because I always want to be the first one that plants the bug in somebody's ear. That's just my personal preference. But again, a lot of times it's just figuring out what works best for you and your, followers and how you want to run things and how you want to build that, brand around yourself with this.
Yeah, I agree. I like that you said that, because I feel like it's really hard to teach somebody in their first 24 hours, like, all right, let's talk about attraction marketing.
Oh yeah, no.
How do you stay organized? Like with your potentials?
It's a good question. I think it's one of those things that what works best for you. I like to always have, and it's actually in my purse right now, but I always like to have a paper list of strong, solid potential. So I organize everything in my phone with flagging Instagram messages, PDT, PLC, all those typical things. But as I'm going through and having conversations with people responding, every single month I like to start a new kind of hundreds list where it's, okay, these people were really engaging in conversation. And so they're ones that I need to make sure I'm interacting on their pages, make sure I'm following up frequently. And just engaging that way. So that's what I like to do. And I don't necessarily carry it with me every single place that I go. I just happen to have it in my purse today, but normally it stays at my desk because I kind of update it as we go through power hours and stuff like that. So that's what works for me. Setting different reminders in my phone, but again, sometimes things slip through the cracks, and that's where, when I'm doing follow-ups, I don't like to jump from platform and say, okay, I'm going to spend one day solidly on text messages. And then the next day I'm going to spend that whole day following up on Facebook. And then the next day might be Instagram. So that way my whole attention is directed towards that platform, and I'm not getting follow-up messages over here. And then I jump over here and then I'm like, shoot, where did I leave off over here? And it makes my head spin. So again, you guys know, I'm very type A. My husband's probably listening in the other room and cracking up because he's like, she's psycho about this stuff. But I can't even think. If my space is unorganized, I can't think. And it's not organized perfectly. It's just how my brain works. And I just like to focus on one task at a time.
I try to stay on Instagram or Facebook every day too, because I just feel like they're different. I don't know. I feel like it's me having to make a mental switch also, which is also probably in my head. But okay, so there was a question that was, how do you instill commitment in your downline? And I know me and you, we talked about consistency and just, it's like I told one of my girls today, it's no different than if you went to the gym 2 or 3 days and ate healthy 2 or 3 days and then took a week and a half off. And then you kept in that cycle. And then 6 months later, you're like, what? Why don't I look like I want to look? I feel like we get on these big kicks and they work for a couple of days, and then people get defeated because they worked for 3 days and then took a week and a half off. Mm-hmm. I thought that kind of went along with what we talked about.
Yeah. Well, I don't remember what Audible book I was listening to, but he was talking about how so many people you jumpstart even New Year's resolutions, you go 110 and then you take a day off or something, and then that sets you back 33%. And he's like, what if you just made a 1% increase every single day and let that add up over time? And so I thought about that, and I'm like, okay, what if you don't go 110, but let's say, you're okay, I'm going to give it 80% today, but then tomorrow I'm going to make it 81. I'm just going to keep upping the ante 1% and just building and building and building. And it doesn't have to be this extreme where you burn yourself out or, you're so overexhausted. And I think sometimes that's what can happen is you get on Zooms and you learn what other people are doing and you're like, oh my gosh, this person sends out 500 messages and you do it one day and then you're exhausted. And so then you don't message because you're exhausted, and then it sets you so far back in your business, and then you're trying to play catch up, and then you play comparison games. So it's that vicious cycle. So instead of doing that, just think of, okay, what's something I can make a 1% increase today? What can I do that's just a little bit more than yesterday that's going to help my business? And so, I've been talking with my team about that because again, I think with newbies and stuff, sometimes it's we're going from 0 to 100, and we're trying to teach them every single thing. But it's sometimes I even tell people, if you're not comfortable with Instagram yet, let's just focus on Facebook, and then we're going to add that in. because I want you, the biggest thing with new distributors, especially in the first 90 days, is that guided hand holding, showing them exactly what to do. Maybe it's giving them posts and stuff like that, but we just want them to see that routine that we're doing every single day. So it's, I don't think that there's like one magical way to train newbies, but just kind of giving you that example is like, I have to show them what I'm doing. I can't just be like, okay, go message 25 people, because they don't even know where to start. They don't even know what to message. But if I say, hey, I'm going to give you this message and I'm going to challenge you to send this to 10 of your closest friends and family, like that gives them a target audience. Or, hey, I want you to go to your Facebook friends list, and anybody that begins with A, you're going to send this message out to. And give them like guided tasks where it actually is going to be results producing versus, okay, like message 25 people because that's what I like. Hopefully that makes sense. And just in the grand scheme of things, it's like, just breaking it down simply, and that guided hand holding throughout.
Yes. Do you use like a training system for them, or do you just kind of go like one by one and take
I go one by one because I think everybody's how they learn is different. And so a lot of times I like to Zoom or do a call within the first 72 hours and just say, how do you best learn? Like, how can I best serve you? What is your expectation of me? And how often do you expect us to kind of touch base? Because all my newbies I do put in a chat. And so every single day I kind of give like a task list, very similar to kind of what I was talking about. Not anything extreme because I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed, but I want to give them the meat, because if I can tell them, hey, go post this to your story, they can post that to their story, and I've given them pictures. I don't care if I'm giving them pictures to post, and like eventually they'll figure out how to make their own. Like that's fine, but in that time when we're just simply building that routine, I want to show them how to do that. And so I totally even forgot your question, but I think I hopefully answered it. I'm like, I told you.
You did. I was talking about if you had like a page where you're like, okay, go through these videos or watch the Connect or, anything.
We have like a couple highlighted videos, but a lot of times, based on that person, if they're not an audible or visual, or let's say they don't like videos, like they want to go read everything. Like if I tag them in a bunch of videos, that's not going to like produce that thought process. So I'm going to ask them, what do you want from me? How can I best serve you? And how can I help you learn? Because I don't want to say, hey, go watch this video when you want to read every single document. Like I can't relate to that, but if you want to do that, like by all means, go read every document.
Perfect. So what's your favorite self-development that you do in the mornings? Like, are you listening to audibles mostly, podcasts?
I listen to audibles. It kind of just depends. Like I always have 2 or 3 different ones going at the same time, just because I think each day, sometimes you need different stuff, like sometimes it might be more focused on like leadership. Sometimes it might be like, okay, I just need a kick in the butt today. Or, sometimes it might be a podcast on like Instagram things that are going to help my business. And so it just might be like whatever I feel like diving in with that. Now there's a girl, her name's Angie Lee. I think she used to be in network marketing, but now she's kind of flipped the script, and I don't know if anybody's ever listened to her, but she's very funny and has a lot of amazing tips when it comes to Instagram. And so, that has like really changed my thought process and my thinking of like what I'm producing. And and a lot of times when you start listening to podcasts or different books, like if you're doing it in that time and then you take like a few notes, that's going to help you generate posts when you're feeling creative. Like when I have a moment and I'm like, okay, like I'm going to come up with a couple different posts. Like I go back to my notes, I take a few, like I'll look over a few things and I'm like, oh, this like struck a chord with me. Let me go write a post on this because now I can. And, she talks so much about a lot of times, when we're posting, we want to sign mass amounts of people. So we're focused on like reaching the masses when really we should be talking to one person. So we should treat our posts as if that person is like we're literally writing that post for that person, and so that kind of changed just everything. Cause I'm like, and again, at the end of the day, like this business is so much on like helping one person each and every time. So I've loved hers, especially, if you're interested in learning more about Instagram, it's been super helpful. But I love on podcasts because it'll suggest other people. So sometimes I'll go and click because that's like-minded, and then I'll click and listen to some other ones, and I'm like, oh, this is going to give me a good idea for this, and I can touch on this. And so, it's just different things.
I love that you said that post. Alyssa, all these girls leaders, she told me that like 3 years ago. And I was like, that makes it so much easier to post when you're like, what did the last 5 people I talked to just tell me?
Mm-hmm,
I don't have money. I don't have time. Okay. So this is a large, all-encompassing question, but how do you push yourself to that next level or get out of your comfort zone?
So I think the big thing, and this might kind of go in what we kind of talked about too. So I'll kind of just talk on like my experience. So 2 summers ago, I was pregnant with Ellie. We finally got pregnant after, years of trying, and paid cash for IVF. And I found myself, I think we ran the $10 promotions, and so then it was like, I got in my head and I was like, I don't have any other potentials to talk to. And so I went, like, I had always filled out my steps to success. And so I went like 1 or 2 months in a row where I assigned 1 distributor total. And so finally I read the book, Get Over Your Damn Self. And so she talks so much about, just like reformulating your why, but you have to have skin in the game, because it doesn't like, and so for me as a leader, I kept thinking, okay, like I'm doing this for my team. Like I want to show my team, like what are their goals and dreams, but I didn't have any skin in the game. I didn't have my why figured out. I didn't have something that was going to push me personally, because I had accomplished everything on my dream board. So I had to sit down and dream again. And so if you're in that position where you're just like, I'm not feeling that push, that's because you haven't figured out your why, or you haven't reevaluated, or you haven't sat down and really dug deep enough. I always tell my team, I'm like, you have a surface level why. So you might tell me one thing like, okay, like I want to make $500 extra a month because it's going to help with childcare. Well, why? Well, because, I hate missing moments with my baby, and, we could just use the extra money. Well, why? Well, it kind of makes you feel like crap when you're struggling and living paycheck to paycheck. And then on top of that, missing moments with your kids, all that kind of stuff. So it's like that once you kind of get to that meat. So I always say, ask yourself why 5 times, but dig deep. And also too, you have to really know what you're going after. And so if you're in that position, it's time to sit down and reevaluate and come up with new things to mark off your dream board. Because, I'm looking at mine, I'm like, okay, we've marked off quite a few things. Like I need to sit down and I need to write these things of what do I want to accomplish next? Because if I don't know where I'm going, I'm not going to get there. Like if I haven't envisioned what's ahead, I don't have anything to go after. So I'm going to be stuck right there.
Yeah, you said that at Ashley's house, like the first time I was around you, and I literally went home and I was like, this is why I've been sitting at double so long. And I was like, I'm going to ask myself why until I start crying.
Mm-hmm.
I just could hear you saying, keep going, keep going. I was like, I heard your sweet little voice. If you're not crying, you're not there yet. And so I was like, I'm going to sit at this kitchen table until I cry.
Mm-hmm.
Sounds ridiculous, but it worked. I mean, I did. I was like, I'm stuck. Like, that's why. I don't know why I'm doing this. The only question that I have left on the list of stuff, and then you guys can totally open or feel free to talk about anything you want, but what is the one thing you would have told yourself in the beginning if you knew what you knew now?
I think the big thing, is really just that, I mean, and you tell yourself this all the time, but it's like, okay, anything is possible. But really, honestly, like being in for 5 years, I don't know. And you guys, some of you probably have been in even longer than I have. It's one of those things that when you first get started, you don't really necessarily see all of the potential of what can actually happen and what you have your hands on. And so I would almost take myself and just be like, put on like that magnifying glass, like if I could, and just be like, dive in this moment, just because there's so much that you can do. And I think it kind of goes with what I just said is, it doesn't matter where you're at, what business you work, whatever you're doing, like at the end of the day, you know, and I went to Tony Robbins this summer, and he talked so much about, and I have been listening to this, so it was like a common theme, but he was talking about how it does not matter what you do. At the end of the day, we all want to be fulfilled. And so how do we get fulfilled? We get fulfilled by helping other people. And so, you know, at the end of the day, like if you've shifted your focus from that, that might be like also too where you're at a standstill or something, you know, isn't really going your way because we've taken the focus off of how can I help other people? Because it doesn't matter, like if you're here, you're there, you're wherever, at the end of the day, that's always the main goal in order to feel fulfilled in life, or else you're always going to be chasing and chasing and chasing, looking for that thing. But it's right there in front of you. It's right there in front of you. You just have to open your eyes and help more people, and you're going to have reach and achieve those goals.
There's somebody unmuted, I think. Sorry, I was trying to find it.
Okay.
Do you guys have any other questions that you all want to like unmute yourself, put in the chat? Do you have anything you want to add? I mean, we kind of talked about just the summer kind of sucking it out of you and like how you get back in that, pull yourself out of that funk. But I mean, I feel like you've touched on a lot of it.
Yeah, I mean, and too, like, you know, I think at the end of the day, sometimes you can either look at it as, like I always say, because at Tony Robbins, okay, so this is like a life-changing event, but he went, so he has you do this like thing, and so if you're ever going to go, you should go, you close your eyes, and so you envision life, you know, as the best thing that's ever happened, and you know, what is it like when you achieve that goal, and you write down those feelings and those thoughts and stuff like that, and then you envision everything being taken away and how that would feel. And you can even do this exercise, you know, probably by yourself, because you're probably going to get a lot more emotional about it than you would, you know, being on this Zoom. And so everything being taken away. And then he says, okay, today's the day where you draw the line. You can either take a step forward and go after what you envision. That's going to be the absolute best thing. Or you're going to go to that worst case scenario. So it's either you take that step forward, across the line, draw the line in the sand, whatever it's going to be, or you're going to take that step back. And so, you know, I think sometimes we're like, all this stuff, but like right now can be your worst case scenario. You might not be necessarily happy with but you have all the power in the world to change it and to change the outcome and to take that step over the line and just absolutely, you know, do something about it. And so that was something that was huge for me, because I'm like, sometimes I think we can get so caught up on like, this isn't going the right way, but we're not doing anything to change it, or we're not taking that step to move in the right direction. And so don't get caught up in just the mental space of saying, okay, like this keeps happening around this and that. It's like, now is the time to do something about it, because we can all get on every single Zoom. We can be the perfect student, show up to every single one. But it's what you do and put in action, you know, that's really going to make or break it. You know, it's going to be beneficial or it's not. Like, it's up to you.
I like that. Audrey wants to know if you live in Montgomery.
I do.
Was there ever a point where you wanted to give up? Because I know you were presidential, you're at your 1 year mark.
Mm-hmm.
So you were probably just like, I mean, probably not that first year, right?
No, I mean, the thing is, like, because again, like I always think of that worst case scenario. I'm like, okay, like if I really want to give up everything that I've worked hard for and to go back to nursing and to miss time with my babies, and like I don't want to do that. So I'm going to work hard each and every day, because I don't want to go back to work. I don't want to live with the elephant on my chest. I don't want to worry about, you know, when Forrest has surgery the next time. I don't want to have to worry about paying for that, because I just decided, man, like I want to give up. Like, no, I don't know. I'm just not a person that gives up easily. And so that's what I always think in my head is like that worst case scenario. Like, I don't want it. I don't want it. And so I'm running steer clear, like the furthest that it can away from it. And, you know, I mean, being in for 5 years, you know, like I've just fallen in love with this company and everything that we're built on, everything that corporate has brought out. You know, they're always, at the end of the day, they're always doing everything for our best interest and, you know, doing things to help us in so many ways. And so, you don't find people that care about you enough like that, like, especially, like, I'll never forget, when I'm sitting in the waiting room, Pam sends me a message and she's like, do you know how many people are praying for you and that baby right now? And I was like sobbing, because, and for her to take time, if it was in my corporate job, like, maybe somebody would have messaged me, but it wouldn't have been like that heartfelt, like, whole paragraph. It would have just been like prayers, or, we'll see you back at work in a week. I don't know. They probably weren't that heartless, but you guys get the point. Like, it's just one of those things. And so I always think, I'm like, I don't want to ever go back to that. And so, my flag is planted, and I'm just going to keep doing my best each and every day.
Awesome. Does anybody else have anything they want to, like, unmute yourself, ask questions in chat?
Or you tell me if I'm missing something.
No, I know. I was reading back through our conversation. I mean, I feel like a lot of the questions that, like, the stuff that we talked about, the questions kind of touched on those every time I open it back up. Have you listened to the Rachel Hollis podcast about, like, doing the right work and, like, doing, because, in this business you can do the easy work, like, and versus the hard work. And we kind of talked about that. Like, you could go and be like, oh, well, I mean, because I know sometimes I'll run into people on coaching calls and they're like, I'm working an hour a day and I mean nothing. And I'm like, well, what are you doing? And I mean, I'm adding and I'm interacting. I'm like, did you ever post? They're like, yeah, I post one, and they're not doing that, like, messaging, that behind the scenes stuff. We talked about that. Maybe if you want to touch on that. And then another question is, how do you balance working your business and being a leader?
So this will probably go hand in hand with that question, because and I would even challenge you, if you're kind of like wondering what you're doing. So I want you to document, like, maybe for a week or even a couple days, like, document every single thing that you do for that day. Okay. And then I want you to divide it up and say business, like home life, I don't know, stuff with your kid, like whatever that's going to be, like laundry, like that's its own category, whatever those categories are for you. And then when it comes to business, I want you to make sure that 80% of that activity is building new business. So 80%. And so if you're worried about balancing your business, that's probably where you're off, because it's probably like 50-50, or, you're so worried about what everybody else is doing. But in order to bring in new and to guide your team, like, the speed of the pack is the speed of the leader. And so my team gets motivated when they see me enrolling. My team gets motivated when they hear my name on, like, last week, when they did the points and they were like, Erin. So like, my team was like, how many points do you have? Like, all in my inbox. And I'm like, that's right, because I'm out there working and doing the things. And so, but I'm making sure that I'm building my business, and then I'm setting aside time to check in with my leaders. I'm setting aside time to be doing Zooms. But at the end of the day, like, we all get paid to sign distributors and sign customers. And so I want you to make sure that 80% of that is doing that. And then the other thing too, if you're home, and I just, had this conversation, like, if I don't have my business work done, like, my laundry is going to wait. Okay. Because sometimes it's so easy when you're home to get caught up in all the other things that you can do, but you have to remind yourself that this is your job. And so if you were at a 9-to-5 job, you would not have access to your laundry. And so you need to treat that the exact same way. It is not going to matter if it sits in your, if it sits in your dryer and you keep hitting dryer on to, like, fluff it out. Like, I do that so many times. But that's just that at the end of the day, like, you have to make sure that you're getting in that work, because it can be easy to get caught up in, well, I got laundry and then I got to go upstairs to make the kids' beds and, clean up, and then I'm going to do the work. But so many times, like, you find 50,000 other things to do, and it's like, I didn't. And then, what happens is you start to resent other things, and you resent your kids, because now, like, oh my gosh, you guys make so much laundry, and I've been doing laundry all day, and I haven't even worked my business because I've been doing so much laundry. And it's that vicious cycle. And so I want you to just make sure when you jot down those tasks that, and I mean, again, every day is not perfect. I am not perfect. But it's one of those things, like, I just had to really sit down and look at, okay, how was I spending my time? Am I focused? Because at the end of the day, this is, what is our income for our house. It's what provides. And so I have to make sure that I'm putting in the work to continue to provide for my family. Because if I was going and clocking in at work, I would not have access to my laundry. I would not have access to the dishes. I would not have access to those things. And so I just have to make sure that what I'm doing, I'm getting done. And so if you have that list, make that list of the things that you want to do, because again, messaging is awesome, adding is awesome. But you have to make sure it's for your business and you're getting that done, because, and then like, I can't even begin to describe, like, you're just going to have so much more appreciation for this business. That's why, like, I get up, I go to the gym and I have my quiet time. And then when I come home and I have my work session, and then it's like anything else is the cherry on top, because I've already gotten so much of my work done that I feel I brought it today. I brought it to the table, and I don't have to worry. I'm not feeling bad if I set my phone aside feeling like, oh, well, I really haven't sent out my messages. And so now I really shouldn't be playing Legos with my son, or, this and that. And so those games can play in your head, and you're just going to fall in love with this business so much more, and it's going to be fun. And it's, hopefully that all makes sense, but that was one thing that I was like, okay, like, I'm spending too much time doing this when I need to, like, do this.
No, that was perfect. That's like been my struggle all summer. And I finally, I don't know, like the first week of school, I realized I hadn't worked in like 5 days because I'd been planning Emerson's birthday and cleaning the house so that it looked good when they all came. And I was like, whoa, would you have taken off of coaching for 4 days to do this? And I was like, heck no, like, what are you doing? But it's exactly like Tiffany just said, like, it was all there when we worked full-time jobs, but there's a lot more distractions at home. I did not see that coming. Like,
No,
for sure.
Nobody does.
Not fun distractions at all, but yeah. Like, okay. When you say 80% business, what does that mean? Like 80% messaging for new LCs and new DTs?
I mean, like, anything that is going to contribute to new enrollments. So messaging, following up, adding to your network. Maybe it's going live. Maybe it's creating posts. Like, anything that would be like income producing activities specific for your business. And then, if you, do a Zoom with your team, because the other 20% should be checking on your team, checking on your leaders. There is like an awesome book called, well, I don't say that, I shouldn't probably even say this on recording. It's called the 80-20 principle. And it's a really great concept. I can't listen to his voice. It puts me to sleep, but I did the Cliff Notes, and there's some really awesome things. I was like an hour in, I'm like, I don't even know what he just said. I have no idea. So I did the Cliff Notes on that, but, he talks about it. And then even, if you were on the Zoom with Cami, when they talk about how that 80% in between, 10% are either going to come with you, like they're just going to work their business regardless. That 10% at the bottom, they're just going to quit. Doesn't matter what you do or say. And there's that 80% in between that you can influence. And so think about that as far as your business, as far as like leadership and your team, and doing all those things. So 80% would be making sure that, I'm doing income producing activities for my enrollments. And then I'm focusing on, a power hour that day, or, scheduling a Zoom or training, or we're touching on, a different topic. Like, those kind of things is what I would say, when you're jotting down. And probably if you're really honest with yourself, you're probably going to find out like, oh, I'm spending so much time like worried about this, or I'm doing so many coaching calls, but then at the end of the day, like, you haven't worked your business. Like, that's the only thing, so I don't ever agree to a coaching call unless I've gotten my stuff done for that day, because it can be so easy to be, by the time you get done with that and doing all these things, I'm like, I haven't even worked my own business. Like, I have to get my stuff done. And it makes my life flow so much better because I have gotten my work done, and I don't feel guilty. I don't feel bad. I'm not thinking of all the other things and like being resentful. I don't know. 'Cause you can get into that mind space easily.
I agree. Okay. Does anybody have anything else they want to? Oh, here we go. How often do you self-develop daily? Would you say you do that in the mornings when you're getting ready? What, right?
Yeah, but anytime I'm driving, like, I always have an Audible book on, if I'm home by myself. I actually like to do follow-up messages in silence. I'm weird, but I just like, I cannot think when there's other stuff going on. So like, I don't listen to audibles then, but I might listen to something, or like when we're doing a power, I'll play some like worship music or something. But every single day it might be something different that you need. One day you might be like, I just need some really good praise music. And then the next day you're like, okay, I need like, I don't know, a hype YouTube video that somebody's just like you can do it, like in your face. And you're like, all right, like that's what I needed today. So, whatever is going to work best for you, like I say go with it. And each day it's going to be different. But like I said, I always have like a couple books at a time that I have like ready to go because you just never know what you need that day.
Yeah, I agree. Jamie's talking and it says my name, but I'm like, I need somebody in
Oh,
my face every day too. Like I like Ed Milet. All right.
yes.
Well, if you guys don't have anything else, I'm going to let her go. Thank y'all so much for hopping on. I appreciate it, Erin. I really
Yeah.
do.
Well, I'm praying for you that you feel better.
Oh, thanks. Y'all have a good evening.